Morning Year 3. This week's story is Graham Oakley's The Church Mice and the Moon. It's a wonderful story that I found the other day when I was looking through my picture books. And it starts like this. Early one Friday afternoon, Arthur and Humphrey, the leaders of the church mice, were strolling in the churchyard, grumbling about how small the portions of pudding had been at lunch. Humphrey was saying that prominent members of society, such as themselves, should have double helpings, and Arthur was agreeing and saying that somebody should do something about it. When suddenly they saw something that made them think somebody had done something about it. But they didn't think so for very long. They let out such a mighty squeak that all the other mice who had been lounging about gossiping came running up to see what all the fuss was about. And Samson, the church cat, who had been enjoying a good scratch in the porch, came running up too. They were just in time to see a van go hurtling up the street. The mice all started wailing and wringing their paws and moaning about how Arthur and Humphrey were gone for ever and ever. They made such a racket that if Samson's mind hadn't been occupied, he might have forgotten his vow of brotherly love towards mice. But his mind was occupied, and it was the strange word that he'd seen on the back of the van that occupied it. "Whoa-mump," he said thoughtfully and rather loudly. The mice stopped twittering and got ready to run because they thought he'd suddenly gone funny in the head due to all the excitement. "To solve a crime, you've got to have a clue, and Whoa-mump is a clue," Samson went on. "Find Whoa-mump and you've found those two silly mice, and I know just where to begin the search." Then he said something about it being elementary, my dear Watson, to a mouse whose name he knew quite well wasn't Watson, and hurried off. When the mice were sure his back was turned, they all looked at one another and tapped their foreheads knowingly, but they followed him just the same. And they followed him to a phone box, where he found the phone book, which in the old days is where you looked up what everybody's telephone number was and what their address could be. He found what he wanted without any bother, and as there was still an hour or so until tea time, he decided to start his investigation there and then. So he sent the mice back to the vestry where they lived, because they would only get underfoot. Then he set off on his search. In the phone book it says, "Whoa-mump, Middleton Lane, Clodbury-on-Lug." Samson knew that the river which flowed past the church was called the Lug, so he reasoned that if he went either upstream or downstream, he would eventually come to Clodbury-on-Lug. He went upstream because the scenery was prettier that way. There's Samson, off on his adventure past the church. Now, I'll read you the next bit tomorrow. Have a look at the worksheet and see if you can answer some of the questions about what we've read so far.